I grew up in a dysfunctional home with very little chance of being successful. I never knew my father. My mother only had an 8th grade education, and all my older brothers were criminals. As a child, I can remember being on welfare, having the local police chase one of my brothers through my house on a regular basis, and teachers telling me to go to the guidance counselor and get out of their class. The teachers would tell me, "You're just another Myers boy and you're not going to make it." They would have been right had it not been for a great man coming into my life. That man's name was Rick Johnson, a martial arts instructor and a person that I credit for everything that I have achieved. I met Mr. Johnson back in the 70s while hanging out at a local park. Mr. Johnson would often bring his martial arts class to the park, and that is where I met him. While teaching one of his classes, Mr. Johnson introduced himself and he invited me to participate. I accepted the invitation, participated in practice, and was invited to take a formal class at Mr. Johnson's dojo. After taking my first karate class, Mr. Johnson asked me if I would like to sign up. I told him I'd love to, except for I didn't have any money, and I started to leave. Mr. Johnson stopped me and he offered to teach me karate for free. He told me I would be the first kid in his class, so I would learn karate and he would learn to teach kids. Mr. Johnson said there's only one catch. He said if you ever miss a class, that I would have to pay him back for all the classes I took. Needless to say, I had a perfect attendance record. Mr. Johnson became much more than a karate instructor to me. He became my mentor. Mr. Johnson was very strict with me as I was growing up. He would make me show him my report cards and do my homework before and after class. He taught me to respect everyone and to always do my best. I would learn from Mr. Johnson that coming from a bad family would not mean you're a bad person. He taught me to take the bad experiences in my life and learn from them. Mr. Johnson taught me how to accept ownership when I did something wrong and to be humble when I did something right. I studied martial arts under Mr. Johnson for many years and gained a wealth of knowledge and respect for the man. The martial arts training Mr. Johnson gave me was only a small part of what he taught me. When I was in the Army and I found myself in a tough situation, it was not the motivation of the previous drill sergeant that kept me going. It was the lessons from Mr. Johnson. Later, when I became a cop and was shot in the line of duty, it was not the instructors from the police academy that kept me fighting, it was Mr. Johnson. Finally, the greatest lesson Mr. Johnson gave me was the example he gave. The example being a supportive husband, treat my wife with respect, and a father that gives unconditional love to their children.